Hello, it's Alex, the Bookubus. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a book haul. So these are all of the books that I have acquired since my last book haul video. They are mostly horror and mostly secondhand, and there are definitely a bunch of vintage gems here, so pretty excited about them. First up are a few books that I got from thrift stores. I've only been out to thrift stores once in the past month or so, and that was actually right at the end of January, and I went to a Goodwill and a Salvation Army. And at the Goodwill I found Wormwood by Poppy Z. Bright, and this is a short story collection. I have read some of the author's novels back in the day and really loved them, and this is one that I haven't read. So I was especially pleased to find this one, and I found it just at that moment when I'd already scanned all of the shelves and was just about to give up and walk away. So I'm glad I hung around for that second or two longer and spotted this, and yeah, really looking forward to reading this one. And then the next few are from the Salvation Army thrift store. First up, I found The Voice of the Night by Dean Koontz. And I haven't read a ton of Koontz, but what I have read has been very hit or miss. So he's not an author that I am necessarily like seeking out much more of, but this is a title I was really pleased to find because I've heard really awesome things about this one. It was originally published under a pen name. I believe it was Brian Coffey, and then this is a later edition under his real name. But I remember hearing about this for the first time probably a couple of years ago when Leon at Paperback Mania did a review of it, and he loved it. So I remember adding it to my Goodreads at that point. And then more recently, I think Richard at Are You Into Horror also talked very highly of it. So I was, yeah, super stoked to stumble upon a copy in the thrift store, and I totally snatched it up. Oh, and what is this one about? This is, I think, about the friendship between two boys that takes some kind of dark turn. So yeah, it sounds great. And then in the same shop, I was really happy to find these two bad boys, these two R.L. Stine titles. So we have Twisted and Blind Date, and these are two titles that came out in the US but weren't actually released in the point horror series in the UK. And I know the term point horror has, I think in recent years, just been used as a catch-all for any and all teen horror from the 90s, but without being, you know, actually I think you'll find type person, point horror was a UK thing, and the books themselves were not. They originally came from the US. They were originally published, I think, mostly by Scholastic, and these ones are, as you can see, are under the Point line. But point horror was a UK invention as far as I know, and that was the kind of umbrella that they used for these titles, or similar titles to these rather, that they then published in the UK. Anyway, these are two titles that came out under the Point line in the US, but did not come out in the Point horror line in the UK. So because we didn't have these ones in the UK, I was really happy to stumble upon them in a thrift store, and I really do look forward to giving them a read sometime. So Blind Date, it wasn't a date, it was a nightmare. And Twisted, she's beautiful, she's popular, she's crazy. Okay, so the next bunch of books are ones that were very kindly sent to me by a friend. You know who you are, and yeah, I'm still flabbergasted that you sent all of these my way. And funnily enough, the box of books arrived the same day that I went to the thrift stores. So I went out, found a couple of awesome books at the thrift stores, came home and had this box of books waiting for me. It was a pretty insane day. So we'll start off with a stack of Sphere books. Sphere was a British publisher, so yeah, the fact that these were all found somewhere in the US, I just find that super interesting. And we were speculating that they were maybe all previously owned by the same person. So let's kick things off with an absolute bang. It's only book 8 of the Bloody Witches series by James Dark. Oh my god, I freaked out over this. So now I think I'm only looking for book 7. Yeah, I'm just over the moon to have this. I do plan on carrying on with the series and reading them and doing a review video when I get a chance. But yeah, you know how it is. So many books, so little time. So yeah, there's that. And then next up we also have this amazing looking zombie ! By Peter Tremaine, which is just an absolutely fantastic cover. And I will say zombies isn't like my go-to subgenre, but I will absolutely give this one a read. Also, I believe this one is more of a like Caribbean voodoo angle, so should be interesting. Then we have Witch Beast by Bernard King, which seems like maybe some kind of animal attack type story where dogs are killing everyone. And another one with a dog or wolf type creature on the front is Follower by Stephen Gallagher. This seems like there might be some kind of shape-shifting, half-man, half-beast, werewolf type situation going on. Next is Carnacki the Ghost Finder by William Hope Hodgson, and this is from the Dennis Wheatley Library of the Occult. And this is a short story collection by William Hope Hodgson, and I have not read any of his work, so I'm looking forward to this one. Then we have another short story collection, but this is an anthology. This is The Oblong Box and Other Tales of the Uncanny, edited by Kurt Singer. And it has this brilliant cover image that is like a wraparound, and we've got this coffin with ivy and just everything. Actually, it's got everything going on. We've got a hand coming out of it, we've got eyeballs, we've got a spider, and then it wraps around onto the back where we have a meat cleaver, you know, of course. We've got a goblet and just a bunch of everything, really, and I love it. And yeah, this one has, let's see, stories by Austin Hall, S. Baring Gould, Edgar Allan Poe, Henry James, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Leonid Andreev, apologies if that's mispronounced, and Nell Kay. So yeah, this looks like a really fun collection. And last up for the Sphere titles is Gabriel by Lisa Tuttle, and I've been wanting to read more of her work. I really enjoyed Nest of Nightmares, which is a short story collection of hers, so I'm really happy to have this one. And this one I believe is about a woman who had a relationship with this guy and then he dies, and sometime later she meets this boy who seems to be the reincarnation of the guy she was in love with. That's all I know, but again, this is another one that I'm really looking forward to reading. Okay, so we have a bunch more vintage mass market paperbacks, and these are all various different publishers. We have Dennis Wheatley selects and introduces Quiver of Horror, Tales of Strange Happenings. So this is another anthology. Next is The Witches of Brimstone Hill by Helen Arvonen. Love this cover. I do love a good occult ritual. Next is The Possessors by John Christopher, and this is a science fiction title, and I just realised it's also published by Sphere, but they have a different logo for the science fiction line, so I totally missed it when I was pulling out all of the Sphere titles. Anyway, it seems like this one is about a group of tourists who are on a skiing holiday, and there's something moving through the group and killing them off. Sounds a little bit The Thing-esque, so yeah, could be interesting. Next is Nursery Tale by T.M. Wright. I love this cover. It is strange and beautiful, and this one seems to be about a couple who are expecting a child and they move to a new house, but there are some strange things going on in the area and the children are going missing. Sounds intriguing. Next is The Wanting Factor by Jean DeWeese. Looks like this one is about a character who seemingly dies but then all of a sudden is alive again and just, you know, wandering about like nobody's business. And yeah, I'm getting a bit of an Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibe from it. And Robert Bloch says, "This is a real shocker. Put a warning label on the cover." Next up is Mirror of Danger by Pamela Sykes, and this one was originally published as Come Back Lucy. And I'm not sure if this one is aimed at younger readers, but it does have a younger protagonist, and I think there is some kind of strange mirror situation and some kind of ghost that I think wants to take over her body. We have The Reincarnation of Peter Proud by Max Ehrlich. This one was adapted into a film, which I have not seen, but it says on the back, "Suppose you knew who you had been in your previous life, where you had lived, whom you had loved, and how you had died. What then?" What then indeed? I guess I'll have to read it to find out. Okay, next up we have The Monastery by J.N. Williamson. Love this cover, the colours are really awesome, and yeah, this owl kind of morphing out of the clouds in the sky is pretty cool. And this one seems to be about a character who breaks down on a journey and takes refuge in a monastery, but turns out that the people that used this place weren't your typical monks and they were into some dark shit. So this one sounds like it could be fun. Next up is Captives by Sean Hodgson. This one is about some murders taking place and a detective who is looking into it, and also a character who was seemingly wrongly convicted for murder. And yeah, I guess the storylines combine. And I think Gloria McNeely over at her channel, I think she read this one a while ago and reviewed it. And if it's the one I'm thinking of, she said that there was a phrase that kept cropping up throughout the book about people smiling thinly, and she just found it really grating because it just kept cropping up on like every other page. So yeah, at least I am forewarned of that before I go into this one. Okay, we are getting there. Now moving on to some larger size books, so that's the last of the mass market paperbacks. We have The Glamour by Christopher Priest. And I believe this one is about a character who is recovering from a horrific accident and is missing some of his memories. And yeah, I guess the journey to try and recover them. It's described on the back as bizarre and intriguing, so sounds good to me. We have Cuckoo Song by Frances Harding. And I think this one is maybe a middle grade novel, although it's a bit of a chunker for middle grade. Blimey, I don't remember reading anything that long when I was a kid. But yeah, this one sounds pretty intriguing. It sounds like a child character who has an accident and enters some kind of nightmare world, and yeah, things aren't quite what they seem. It's maybe got some kind of fairy tale elements. Yeah, I don't know, not my usual cup of tea, but I am curious for sure. And then I have 4 short story collections by a publisher called Undertow Publishing. So first up is Thin Places by Kay Chronister. The opening line on the back here says, "The first woman to live in the four-gabled house fermented her unborn children in the wine cellar." This House of Wounds by Georgina Bruce. And this one says, "She ran, her red coat flashing through the woods, wet leaves and soil under her shoes. The woods are full of dead girls." Sing Your Sadness Deep by Laura Morrow. This one doesn't have a catchy line at the top, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's a short story collection. And Nothing is Everything by Simon Strantzers. Darkness is actually perfection, the most perfect state there is. And last but definitely not least is a book sent my way from Regina at Regina's Haunted Library. It is one of her books, Fashion Victims. This is set in the fashion world in New York City, and there is a serial killer picking off people. They all seem to be related to this one fashion designer, so he is like the main suspect. And we're also following the detective who is on the case. And apparently there's a sex club involved as well. So sounds like it's all going on, and I am really looking forward to reading it. I am hoping to pick this one up sooner rather than later. So thank you to Regina for sending it my way. So those are all of the books I have acquired recently. There was a lot of them, and yeah, I'm still so like, just, I have no words. But very thankful for the generosity of the people who sent some of these books my way. I definitely won't be at a loss to find things to read for like the next 17 years, so that's pretty awesome. Do let me know if you've read any of these, if there are any that you would especially recommend, or if there are any that just sound more interesting to you that you would like me to read and review sooner rather than later. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!